ABC 10 News at 5 starts right now.
A nearly 2-hour chase through the South Bay finally comes to an end thanks to a big rig. See what happened when police surrounded that boxed-in van that they were pursuing. Plus, as millions of Americans continue to get their COVID-19 vaccine makers are now testing booster shots. We're going to go in depth on the 4 leading strategies. And Governor Gavin Newsom unveils a $536 million plan to fight California wildfires.
ABC 10 News starts now with breaking news.
A deadly mass shooting erupting about 100 miles outside Houston, leaving 1 person dead and 4 others, including a state trooper, injured. Thank you for joining us. I'm Kimberly Hunt.
And I'm Steve Atkinson. Here is the latest on this breaking story. The gunman was taken into custody about a little over an hour ago and is believed to be an employee of the cabinet company where this afternoon's shooting unfolded. Investigators say the gunman showed up to the site and just began shooting. The gunman initially got away but was arrested at a different location a short time later. Now we're told that 1 person died at the scene. 4 others were taken to the hospital in critical condition. 1 other person was also sent to the hospital for an asthma attack. And just hours before today's deadly shooting, President Biden took new action to address gun violence. Earlier at the White House, he unveiled regulations on so-called ghost guns. Now, those are kits that can be bought online to build a gun with no serial number. He's also limiting stabilizing braces that can turn handguns into a rifle. But President Biden says the actions he can take right now, they fall short of what's needed to end the epidemic of gun violence here in the U.S. He says that will take action by Congress.
They've offered plenty of thoughts and prayers, members of Congress, but they've passed not a single new federal law to reduce gun violence. Enough prayers. Time for some action.
The House passed several gun safety bills. Today, Republican Senator Lindsey Graham says those go too far, but he is open to a compromise on background checks.
And now to that slow speed chase through the South Bay that lasted for almost 2 hours. It finally came to an end this afternoon when the driver was cornered by a big rig and an SUV. ABC 10 News reporter Jennifer De La Cruz is joining us from Chula Vista with a look at what led up to this dramatic scene. Jen?
Yeah, Kim and Steve, we are on 3rd and Moss, and the scene is clear here now, but it's a very different story just a couple of hours ago when that very unusual chase ended here in the streets of Chula Vista. So Chula Vista PD say they got a call around noon about a person waving a gun at someone else. They then found the suspect driving a gray and black minivan and tried to pull him over on Telegraph Canyon Road near the 805. Sky 10 was rolling overhead as the driver weaved in and out of traffic, making illegal turns from the wrong lanes at times. The slow speed chase through the South Bay went on for an hour and 45 minutes. The driver eventually stopped the van outside an apartment complex and behavioral health center near 3rd and Moss. About a dozen police officers surrounded the car with their guns drawn. Officers were able to put the man in handcuffs and detain him while they searched that car. He was eventually put on a stretcher and into an ambulance. And that van was towed away here just a couple of hours ago. Chula Vista police tell me they're still working on identifying that driver. They say while he does have injuries, they appear to be minor at this time. Reporting live in Chula Vista, Jennifer De La Cruz, ABC 10 News.
Jen, thank you. Now to the latest on coronavirus here in San Diego County. 300 new cases were reported today. That brings our total to almost 272,500. And there were 4 new deaths, bringing that total to just under 3,600.
The CDC says the so-called UK variant of COVID-19 is now the most dominant strain spreading in the U.S., and it's striking younger Americans.
It's more contagious for everybody. But the good news is we have managed to vaccinate a large chunk of older Americans. But that means that this pandemic is now starting to really rage among young people, including children.
Experts say the current vaccines are effective in fighting the UK variant. Meantime, the CDC says 5 states are now accounting for almost half the new cases in the U.S. Michigan, New York, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, and Florida. And all eyes are on Georgia, where the governor's executive order removing most statewide restrictions went into effect today. As new variants emerge, the leading vaccine makers are beginning to test booster shots. They're experimenting with a range of approaches, from new recipes to blends. ABC 10 News anchor Derek Stahl is going in depth on the 4 leading strategies.
All of the U.S. vaccines are effective against severe COVID-19, but studies are showing they're somewhat less effective against certain variants, particularly the one discovered in South Africa. That variant has mutations that allow it to escape a number of the antibodies generated by the vaccines. So Pfizer, Moderna, and J&J are responding, and you could call their first strategy a basic booster. It's the exact same formula given one extra time, a third shot in the case of Pfizer and Moderna.
That has the advantage of simplicity.
Dr. Alessandro Setti of the La Jolla Institute for Immunology says it's the easiest approach to test and manufacture, and the idea is to have strength in numbers.
Basically, you can stop a virus by starting your immunity at a much higher level.
Even though the variants can dodge some of the antibodies, the concept is to simply boost the total number of antibodies. Pfizer projects it'll increase 10 to 20-fold with one more shot. But the timing of that booster will be key, says Dr. John Bradley of Rady Children's Hospital.
Theoretical possibility that if I get a booster of that same vaccine, especially within a fairly short period of time, I'll have an even stronger reaction.
The companies are experimenting with boosters given 6 to 12 months later. The second strategy is called a strain-adapted vaccine. This is when scientists come up with a new recipe specifically for a variant.
The fact that we can take an mRNA vaccine and just immediately reprogram it with a new variant is an interesting concept, and I think is one of the major innovations in terms of vaccine development.
Pfizer, Moderna, and J&J are all working on shots with recipes tailored to the spike protein in the South Africa variant. But what if a country gets hit with a different variant or the virus mutates again? Moderna and J&J are testing a third strategy called a multivalent booster. This one is a blend, like an Arnold Palmer, where scientists mix the original vaccine with an updated recipe in one shot.
That's what we get for influenza each year. Influenza changes, mutates, and so we need new vaccines each year. And what we do is we pick the most prevalent strains that are likely to circulate, and we put those in the current vaccine for that upcoming season.
The downside is that a multivalent shot can be more complicated to make and test, and for now, Pfizer is not pursuing it. The fourth strategy is the most experimental and probably the farthest off, what Dr. Setti calls the Spike Plus approach.
Spike is really the best target for neutralizing antibodies, but there are several other proteins.
Some companies, like Gritstone Oncology in California, want to make a vaccine that goes after multiple spots on the virus, not just the spike protein that all of the current shots are based on.
Other parts of the virus may be less easy for a virus to mutate.
Whatever the strategy, vaccine makers are hoping to have the first booster shots authorized and ready by the summer in case they're needed. Derek Stahl, ABC 10 News.
SeaWorld San Diego is getting ready to reopen its rides after a year without thrills. It has been operating as a zoo up until now because of coronavirus restrictions. But starting next week, all that will change since San Diego County is now in the orange tier. Our ABC 10 News reporter Mimi Alcala shows us the preparations now underway.
The rides were moving at SeaWorld San Diego Thursday, employees testing them out, gearing up to allow Californians back on.
We are so excited to be able to get these rides rolling again.
In the orange tier, amusement parks can operate at 25% capacity, up from the 15% that was allowed in the red tier. Visitors have already been enjoying SeaWorld, but only as a zoo.
So back in late August, we made a decision to open as a zoo and provide that experience to our guests.
For the first time in more than a year, it'll return to being a theme park on Monday. Popular roller coasters and rides like Electric Eel, Tentacle Twirl, and many more will no longer be off limits.
And then in the Ocean Explorer area, we're opening Aqua Scout. In Bay of Play, we're opening Elmo's Flying Fish and Abby's Sea Star Spin.
The park's president, Marilyn Hannes, says they brought back many employees and will be hiring a lot more for both part-time and full-time positions. And also starting Monday, SoCal residents can purchase a pass for $9 a month that'll include unlimited visits for a year and 50% off parking.
I don't think we're going to take a big step back. I'm very optimistic this will keep getting better by June. So I see us hiring a lot of people. people.
Mimi Alcala, ABC 10 News.
And today, the state did announce unless there are extenuating circumstances like a low rate of people getting vaccinated, counties will only move to more restrictive tiers if hospitalizations are on the rise. And both testing, positivity, and adjusted case rates show a concerning increase in COVID-19 transmission.
The severe lack of rain this season is leading to worries about fire danger as the weather warms up. Today, Governor Gavin Newsom agreed to a deal with the legislature to spend more than $500 million to speed up major wildfire projects. That includes some in San Diego County. Newsom says the state will increase the number of firefighters, planes, and helicopters.
There's a new reality. You don't believe in climate change, you don't believe in science, you believe your own damn eyes.
The plan also includes money for grants to landowners to help them make their property more resilient against wildfires. A use of force expert testified today that Derek Chauvin had his knee on George Floyd's neck the entire time he was handcuffed and lying face down. As ABC's Rena Roy reports, he even had jurors feel their own necks to get a better idea how deadly it can be.
In the courtroom Thursday, the jury getting a close look at new 3D images as Dr. Martin Tobin, a pulmonologist, described in painful detail exactly how he believes Derek Chauvin's knee made it impossible for George Floyd to breathe.
Mr. Floyd died from a low level of oxygen. You need to examine your own necks.
Dr. Tobin asking jurors to feel their own necks, walking them through the mechanics of what he says happened, testifying Chauvin's knee appeared to be on Floyd's neck for 90% of the interaction, even after he stopped breathing.
The knee remained on the neck for another 3 minutes and 2 seconds after we reached the point where there is not 1 ounce of oxygen left in the body. That half of his body weight plus half his gear weight is coming down, that's 91.5 pounds, is coming down directly on Mr. Floyd's neck.
Dr. Tobin says that would have even killed a healthy person with no underlying issues. But the defense argues Floyd's heart condition and drug use ultimately led to his death.
Methamphetamine will increase a person's heart rate, right?
Yes.
That's one of the side effects.
Yes.
The crucial medical testimony follows 11 current and former law enforcement officials who have testified against Chauvin, condemning his actions last Memorial Day. Use of force expert Jody Steiger saying Chauvin should have reduced restraint once Floyd was cuffed on the ground.
So you could see that Mr. Floyd's his health was deteriorating. Therefore, you have a responsibility to take some type of action.
It's unclear when exactly the defense will get their turn to call witnesses, but it will be sometime soon. And we can expect them to also call medical experts to the stand to try and prove their theory that Floyd's death was caused by heart issues and drug use. Rena Roy, ABC News, New York.
You may have noticed you weren't able to use Facebook or Instagram briefly this afternoon. Several thousand users reported outages on the website Down Detector about 3:30. Both social media sites appeared to be back up within 30 minutes for most users. Facebook has not commented on what may have caused the outage, and it's the second one in less than a month. The last outage on March 19th left both sites down for several hours.